Hello, and thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Jamie Anderson, and I am a family and a psychiatric nurse practitioner who owns a private psychiatric clinic in Cambridge, Minnesota. When the North 65 Chamber of Commerce asked me to speak at this event, I was absolutely thrilled since occupational health and wellness is literally a passion of mine and has been at the front and center of my medical career for nearly a decade. I consider it an honor and a privilege to be speaking at this 36th Annual Employee of the Year Award event. Today we will be discussing 6 tips to improve your work-life balance, which is why I titled it Wellness While You Work. The most commonly asked question I get is, Jamie, who are you and what do you even do at Intentional Wellness Solutions? And I wanted to give a quick history of where I came from in my career. I started out believing that real nurses worked in the hospital. I quickly found that keeping people out of hospitals was actually the biggest issue that I wanted to work on and focus on behavior changes and helping people deal with their chronic illnesses like diabetes or high blood pressure, high cholesterol issues. But I learned that there wasn't enough time in a traditional medical setting. One company that I worked for allowed me to do something called health coaching with people, and it could be for their physical ailments or even stress management, and it focused on behavior change. So I ended up going back to school to become not only a family nurse practitioner, but a psychiatric nurse practitioner, and wanted to focus on helping people make changes that would help their live their best life. And I found that that's best served in mental health. So I do have a practice called Intentional Wellness Solutions, where I focus on specifically that. I can do therapy and I also can prescribe medications if it's necessary for physical or mental conditions. What we do as employees or business owners with our time is critical to our wellness and sense of purpose. We literally spend more time engaged in work-related activities than what we do with spending with our families. So it's really important that we are also feeling like we are connected and having good relationships in order for us to be satisfied with our work life and not bringing home the stressors to our families. A Harvard Business Review ended up finding that Americans spend more than 50% of their waking hours engaged in work-related activities. This number goes up even more if you carry a smartphone and you check that after hours, and literally it's leaving you with minimal time to do anything else that you need to do, like sleep, like grocery shopping, like exercise, like spending time with family. So what we do with our time is very, very important and is going to dictate how things are going to go, not only in our work life, but in our home life and the relationships we have outside of work. If we were all together in person right now, I would be handing out a stress scale for everyone to calculate the good and bad life events score. And literally what this is a scale that 2 psychologists had put together several years ago that focused on different life events that cause stressors and allowing you to score in 3 different categories. The higher risk that you were based off of your score correlated with the likelihood that you would become physically ill based on the stressors that you went through in life. If anyone would like to take this, feel free to contact me through my webpage or email listed below, and I'd be more than happy to forward that to you. The change cycle is listed here on the left of your screen. I just wanted to incorporate this image because we all have been experiencing various changes, whether it's a good change or a bad change. This cycle can apply. And keep into consideration where you might be at on this cycle, where your household is at, where your coworkers might be at. And sometimes it can give you a little bit more insight as to what people are dealing with and the expected feelings. Just because you end up getting all the way to stage 3 or 4 and you're getting really close to 5 doesn't mean that you can't kind of fall back into stage 2 again. Different things, all this uncertainty can re-trigger all these events, but I feel like this image is super helpful with everyone going through various changes right now. And then Everything changed with 2020, didn't it? Typically, we think of 2020 as being perfect vision, but it really has brought a lot of uncertainty and confusion and change, which has not been comfortable for a lot of people. Schedules and lives as we knew it changed not only for us in the professional world, but it changed for our kids too. I literally had made this image to post on my Facebook to try to get a chuckle out of families last spring when the schools were shut down and how we were all empowered and ready to go on week 1 of distance learning, and then realizing that after the first week, it wasn't going to be easy and definitely came with some of its own challenges. A recent Kaiser Family Foundation study also found that people are saying that their mental health has been negatively impacted based off of the coronavirus. Um, Literally, it started at 32% in March, and the latest statistics that they have are up to 53%. So that means literally 1 out of every 2 people are experiencing some form of negative impact on their mental health. So I wanted to include this slide just because a lot of the time some of the feelings that we're going through aren't making sense to us. And I wanted to highlight that you're not alone if you've ever felt that way. And probably more people are going through anxiety and stress like you've never felt before. So sometimes signs of stress can be physical, such as headaches, teeth grinding, stomach issues, muscle tension. But it can also show up in our relationships, like having struggles and anger and irritability, inability to experience joy. Some people are increasing substance usage and isolating from people that they normally spend time with and care about, and it's also interrupting people's sleep. All right, we're right before the 6 tips, and I just wanted to include this photo of my dog, Maya. And this was from the first shutdown when the groomers were closed and I was going to have to try my luck at cutting her hair. When we go through these tips, just know that if you do need any personal assistance to help individualize tips to you, your home, your work site, feel free to contact me directly and I'd love to work with you. I make a better nurse practitioner than I do a dog groomer, and for the record, Maya has still not forgiven me. So without any further ado, we'll go into the 6 tips. Tip 1, get real. The pandemic literally changed everything for a lot of people. Your priorities and the realities of what you deal with at home are completely different. And same thing with changes at work. A lot of times people are working remote now, or hours were cut, jobs were cut. So when we're dealing with changes, as you remember from the cycle of changes screen, we do not have as much capacity to deal with this as what we did before the pandemic. So even though a lot of our home life and our work life is requiring us to take on more responsibilities, we really do have less capacity due to the amount of change and uncertainty that we're dealing with. So everybody's situation is different, and it would be a quick recipe for disaster to think that you can be operating at the level at which we were prior to the pandemic, or even more so. So how you can apply this today: create a new schedule and routine. So create wake cycles, bedtime cycles, new rules if people are home more often. Schedule downtime in your day. I've noticed people are scheduling Zoom meetings back to back to back to back. And we're not accounting for the time we used to have to commute in between visits or to take a lunch during a visit. A lot of times people are literally packing their day full. So make sure you're scheduling downtime in your day. It will actually make you more creative and more productive if you do incorporate that time. It also is helpful if work environments allow you to be a little bit flexible to help with kids' schooling start times or other requirements that may have changed in your home life. Asking for different hours or allowing you the ability to work from home if possible. There's also lots of different ideas on adjusting to job changes since the pandemic. Tip number 2, practice gratitude. It's very easy to identify what's going wrong in a situation, and it takes extra focus to find the positive in a situation. So it becomes even more important to focus on what is going well at home and also what is going well at work. How have people pulled together, or how can people pull together to make things work? Making sure to take extra time to thank those who you are helping or those who are helping to serve you at work. Um, and having gratitude literally has research that helps people to feel more positive emotions. It can improve your health. It helps you to deal with stressors more effectively, and it also helps to build strong relationships and connections. Harvard Health actually demonstrated that. How you can apply this today: you can write a thank you note or thank someone else for something positive, even if it's something routine and that is expected of them to be doing regularly. I've often been asking my kids to keep up with chores, and if I don't have to ask them specifically to do a chore, I'm taking the time to thank them for even doing something. And they'll say, Mom, you know, that's just what we're supposed to do. And I let them know, I know, and I'm super grateful for that. And I haven't even had to ask you today. So thank you. Also, too, keeping a gratitude journal, and when you write down 3 different things that you're grateful for in each day, literally has shown an improvement in mood even after just a week or 2 of doing this practice. It's similar to the effects of what they found for taking an antidepressant, only there's no side effects to it. Tip number 3, prioritize connections over isolation. This one can get a little bit tricky just because social distancing can require us to distance ourselves from people, but making sure that when you're at home, understand that your home life is going to feel disrupted based off of each individual scenario. If you have extra kids at home, if you're remotely working, you have a spouse that's working at home with you and you're becoming more irritable or not necessarily having your own dedicated place that you work at. And just not even able to participate in common celebrations like weddings or baby showers. So same thing with work, making sure that you're reaching out to coworkers. That can help increase trust and create a common bond over similar experiences. So one thing that I've been encouraging people to do is to call a family member, a friend, coworkers, and plan something, whether that's a virtual game night, whether that's a TED Talk in person. You're watching videos and make some appetizers and watch them together and talk about it after the fact, or just reaching out to a coworker and offer assistance on a project. I know a lot of times we don't have any extra energy to give, but being there for someone is going to add so much to the connection and build trust in these relationships. People can also join different community events, volunteer events. There's lots of different opportunities to do that within this community and even church groups. Tip number 4, set limits. I feel like if everybody was unmuted, I'd start hearing some groans in the screen. But it is really important to limit substances like caffeine or alcohol because it can actually increase our anxiety by consuming more caffeine, and it's actually a depressant to consume more alcohol. Alcohol, oftentimes people will have before bed to kind of settle down, and they don't realize that alcohol has what they call a rebound effect. So it has a sedating effect at first. However, after a few hours, it can actually have the exact opposite effect. So people find themselves waking up in the middle of the night and they just can't fall back asleep. They're not understanding why. But that lack of sleep can also lead into having less energy in the morning or less motivation. And then also too, just limiting your media exposure. There's a lot of negativity that's listed, and just by taking time to not expose yourself to that can actually improve your mood. Not engaging in some of the social media conversations might also be helpful. I don't think we were created to have as many opinions as we're exposed to in a day. And a lot of times some of the conversations don't stay on the up and up and might be more better served in person or over the phone. So there's a list of how you can apply this tip. Reading books instead of going on social media, have phone conversations, and deciding not to talk about hot button issues on social media. And also, too, I want to encourage people to download the iCBT app on their phone to encourage healthy sleep habits, because sleep strongly correlates with our mood and our ability to focus. Slide in this whole thing. Include fun in the mix. All work and no play is going to lead to relationships disconnections at home, probably also at work, and it can also lead to professional burnout. I love working with people who get to this point, but it is so much easier to turn around in a more prompt manner when people reach out before they get to the level of burnout. So make sure you're incorporating fun in your daily and at least weekly life. If you can't remember what you used to do for fun, sometimes it literally takes people Googling a list of fun things to do and picking up maybe 3 to 5 things that you might want to be willing to try this month. Or at work, you could set up a theme for every casual Friday. You could dress up. You can have different music playing during lunchtime. You can post pictures and of vacations or pets, or have something in a common lunchroom area that everybody can kind of just stay positive and look forward to go looking at this. Or if you guys are working remotely, sending it to each other through email or text. And joke or brain teasers for the day can also be helpful, as long as it's politically correct. It is a work environment and you don't want to get yourself in trouble and create more stress that way. However, I do love humor, and if you have any good jokes, feel free to send them my way. I love them. Tip number 6, our final tip: practicing radical empathy. Empathy is literally being able to understand a person's perspective other than our own. We're social creatures, and prior to this pandemic, a lot of us were not all experiencing chaos at the same time. So it allowed us to be more emotionally available and reaching out to our friends and family who might have been going through a tough time, whether it was a divorce or other stressor. But now we're all going through tough times kind of all at once, and it doesn't give us the energy to reach out as much as what we used to. So radical empathy requires you to step outside of your own stressors, which takes a ton of energy to do, and it can feel impossible. However, this is going to be the key for all of us getting through this together. Um, and so realize that the pandemic has impacted people in different ways. So what your coworker who's a single person, they may not realize the struggles associated with parents who are working from home and working with children who are doing distance learning, or a person who's not able to visit their elderly parents who might be in a nursing home, and how much stress that's creating and heartache for both the parents and the adult parents. So really taking time to understand how roles have changed for different people in the household. And in your conversations, if you are able to seek to understand why a person is feeling a certain way instead of coming to your own conclusion, it can actually really open the door for some great conversations and understanding. At work, if you can see life from another person's perspective, it might be what you need to understand where they are coming from. So I encourage you, at least once a day, if not more, genuinely ask others, how are you doing? And and don't settle for just a generic response. We really need to be talking to each other and discussing different ways that we're going through struggles and how we're overcoming these things. And when we can relate to others and understand that we're not alone, it makes us feel stronger and it builds trust. And we're going to have all sorts of amazing relationships when we get through this, if we do take time to practice radical empathy. Getting close to the end here, and I wanted to include an image that I saw the other day when I was shopping and share this with you about how amazing life is, even during difficult times. Before I wrap up, I want to include one quote by Simon Sinek, who is a leader in employee and employer environments. And it's something that we're likely going to see a lot of these nominees today and how they are passionate about what they do. So when we work hard for something that we don't care about, it's called stress. When we work hard for something we love, it's called passion. Thank you so much for having me here today. And I just wanted to extend a congratulations to all the nominees, and I'm looking forward to hearing all of your stories that allowed you to become nominated in the first place. Have a great rest of your day.